A majorly fun day. This is book launch for the Game Changer Inspirational Stories That Change Lives. And I have to say, for each one of you, your stories, every one of them were magnificent through all the whole book. And I want to thank you because it's a privilege for me too, and very life supporting to be able to read these stories as I'm putting these books together. It's so fun. And just be able to celebrate this time. We are already an international bestseller, just happy to say, happy to report.
Woo!
We've hit number one in a lot of different categories. There's just a lot of fun activity, but it's the credit goes to each one of you in cooperating and kind of following the instructions to make a book launch successful. So here is our celebration today, and I wanted to we'll go kind of one by one and really talk about, it'll be a nice conversation all throughout, but we're going to be I'm going to read your quote, and I will call on one at a time to discuss why you chose that quote. And I know I'm changing from what I wrote the other day, but that's the fun of it.
Yay!
And so, Kat, this is your quote that you put in. Science is a perspective. Science is the process that takes us from confusion to understanding in a manner that's precise, predictive, and reliable. A transformation for those lucky enough to experience it as empowering and emotional. And it's by Brian Greene. And you had an extra quote, oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood. Wow, that's a big one. So why did you choose that quote, and how does that apply to your chapter, Kat?
Yeah. These two quotes, the animal song, "Oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood," and the approach we take for those of us who work in science or engineering or really any analytical field, it really, we learn a certain way of speaking in a scientific community that doesn't always lend itself well to connecting with others in the rest of the world. And so often, especially for people working in my space, in water, in the environment, in climate change, and a lot of the global challenges, we need to be able to communicate with others. And we're often told as technical people, as analytical types, you're too analytical, you're too technical, nobody can understand you, don't even bother trying to say anything, go, call on our communication staff, our marketing staff. And what we learn in the online space is just how to use systems and human psychology to communicate in a way that does in fact connect, that produces revenue and results and relationships online.
Very beautiful. It kind of gives a lot of interesting perspective to your life, and it'd be interesting to, as we go through the rest of this conversation, to bring some of that to light. Awesome. Thank you. How about for you, Joia? Your quote is, the purpose of
Can
this
I?
life.
Cheryl says she can't get it, so I just confirmed.
Oh, she can't get in?
That's what she said.
Did she leave a message somewhere? Or?
Yes, I see it in the.
Oh, could somebody message her and ask her to log out, and then go back to the link in the email and see if that works to come back and click on it. It might work that way. Okay. All right. And I can put here, let me see if I can do this. Got to remember how to do this. Invite. Yeah, I can do this. Copy. Let me see if she clicks on, tell her I'm putting a link in the chat and see if that helps her. All right. Thank you. I didn't notice the post. So Joia, your quote is, the purpose of this life is to find yourself. Know yourself. Feel the throb of the ocean of God's presence in your heart. We connect the little joy of the soul with the vast joy of the spirit. Where did that quote come from, and why did you pick that for your chapter?
Well, there's a book called Spiritual Diary that I use every day, and that it's for a year. And that particular day I opened it, and that was actually the quote. And I had asked, I was like, I need a quote, help. And I said, okay. And I opened my book, and that was the quote. And it was by Paramahansa Yogananda.
Ah, what a beautiful quote. And what's the name of your chapter?
The name of my chapter, that's a good question. Oh my gosh. Conversations with the Divine about life purpose.
Oh, how beautiful. So, a lot of times I'll pick up a book, especially a compilation book or a prayer type book, and I'll just say, what do I need today? And then open, that's the page I'm supposed to read. And it always just like, whoa, how did that happen? Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. Malcolm, since you're the only gentleman on the call, your quote is next. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's one, two pieces of paper. Let me see. And that's it. That is the quote. And it's an African proverb.
Yes,
Tell
ma'am.
us about this quote and the inspiration behind it.
Well, I just love this quote in so many ways, and then when I was looking for a quote, because my story is about competition and about track and field specifically, it was perfect. It was the perfect fit. The quote itself is just, it's meant so much to me throughout my lifetime about I'm always one that's wants to do things. I want to do things, and I want to do it right, and I want to be the one that does it,
Right.
And I continue to learn, and especially now that it really takes all of us, and you can, or I can be as efficient as possible, but if I have Monique there with her beautiful voice to help me along and her beautiful mind, then the two of us can even go further, and then with Joia further, and Dr. Kat further, and now with Becky we frozen.
Aw. Well, it's a constant reminder that we're not alone in this world, and we should not try to do it alone. That, it's sometimes if we've had life experiences, we tend to just shy away and don't get involved, and we, kind of back off. But when we allow ourselves to be inspired and work together with others, we go so much further. Thank you. Thank you. That's awesome. The beautiful Monique. Your quote is, now I am the voice. I do say she is the voice. I will lead, not follow. I will believe, not doubt. I will create, not destroy. I am a force for good. I am a leader. From Tony Robbins. Beautiful. So must be a very guiding light for you in your walk in life today. So tell us about this quote and how it applies to your chapter.
Ooh, and I will try not to weep. My chapter is about the death of my beautiful mother and all that means. It was a moment in my life where not to be dramatic, but I am an opera singer. It was a moment where I'm an only child. She was my voice teacher. She was my best friend. She was my everything. And it was a moment where I really wondered, did I want to continue this life without her? And one of the things that happened because of her death is I stopped my career and I stopped singing. I became silent. And in the throes of the pain of loss, I was flipping through Netflix that had become my best friend at the time. And Tony Robbins' documentary, I'm Not Your Guru, showed up. And I started watching it, and I started to hope again. I started to dream again. I saw how he was transforming so many lives, and I saw that his voice was in trouble. And it got me to thinking, he was doing vocal exercises and they were good. They were good. But I mean, I'm trained to sing over a 100-piece orchestra in a theater that seats 1,000 or more with no microphone. I know how the voice works. I know how to help a voice endure throughout time and speak and sing according to the laws of nature. And so I started to wonder, what if I helped the next Tony Robbins? What if I used my expertise to support and hold up into the light the next person with a big message? And two things happened that day. I got out of bed and started living again, and I signed up to be to learn how to coach like he did. And one of the trainings was Unleash the Power Within, which is it happened here in New Jersey, and I was in a stadium full of 18,000 of my closest friends. And after one of the most deep self-opening up exercises, 18,000 of us chanted this. Now I am the voice. I will lead, not follow. I will create, not destroy. And the vibration of those voices moving through my entire being. The vibration of my mother's voice when I was a little girl, vibrating my little tiny body. It helped me understand how important our voices are, and that my work is to help others unleash their voice so that they can vibrate the world.
Wow. Beautiful. Wow. I want to be like you when I grow up.
Well, you are. You are publishing our voices, aren't you?
Oh, yes, it's all beautiful. And it just, I've heard your voice, and it just makes my heart sing. Thank you. That's beautiful. Jyothsna, before we go with her, somebody, is anybody in the stream for Cheryl? Because she's trying to get in. Can you somebody send her the link?
She put a note saying that the link is not working, and she wants somebody to text it to her or email it to her. That's what I see on the.
Okay. Well, the link is up in the post up above. If anybody can copy it and send it to her.
I will do this.
Okay.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
you can go ahead. Okay.
All right. Jyothsna, the lovely Jyothsna, it's wonderful to have you here. Your quote is, "If an inspiring thought occurs to me in the ordinary way, I know it comes from the mind. But if it appears suddenly like a flash of light, I know it comes straight from God through intuition." Oh, beautiful. So how did this quote, why did it strike you? Why did you use it for your chapter?
That's how my.
Oh. Why did she freeze right now? Okay. Well, we'll circle back around. I'll ask her the same question when we come back. So in the writing of your chapter, Joia, what was it that how did writing your chapter affect you on a personal level?
Ooh, it was extremely personal for me because it felt like I was coming out of the closet. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
As a spiritual being, as a child who knew at 3 and 4, who played with the fairies and who thought everybody could hear, who thought everyone listened, at that time. But I learned there were some things I was not, I knew it was a different place. And what I discovered is I just kept shutting down and shutting down and shutting down. And and I actually thought I had really been sharing and coming out, um, and thought I was pretty open. But after the pandemic, I realized you're not sharing really your personal experiences that are happening now. And so I decided I would actually write about my learning as a soul having a human experience, what it felt like to actually, for a short time, not be able to hear Source's voice all the time. Whenever I ask a question, I got an answer. And so, in doing this, writing this book, I didn't get an answer, and it was the first time. And what I realized was that I had spiritual pride without even knowing that's what it was, and that I was afraid. And I was really trying to fit in, and that I was, yeah, I was being less me so I could be with others. Because when I'm being me, I get a lot of feedback.
Well, and I understand that totally. Sometimes we play small. We don't play the full out game that we're meant to play. Wow, that's beautiful. Jyothsna, you're back. Let me see. Can we hear you?
Yes, yes, yes. I'm back. We just lost power, so I had to get another,
Aw,
another internet connection.
not now.
I know.
So back to you and the quote for your chapter, and I'll read it again because it's quite beautiful. If an inspiring thought occurs to me in the ordinary way, I know it comes from the mind. But if it appears suddenly like a flash of light, I know it comes straight from God through intuition. Why did you choose this for your chapter, and what's the inspiration of this quote?
That is how it happened to me. Like when I was in the midst of chaos, it just flashed because I took the time to go inside and see. I did not do it consciously, but I just went back from everything and I said, is it really bad what's going on? But it just flashed. It just flashed in my mind that it was not as bad it seems to be. And we were still alive and I could breathe. And I was so much in gratitude. Like, my father had, he fractured his, a bone, and, we had a few, we had a little bit of, a little bit of blood and all that stuff. And it was chaos. But we were alive and everybody came out good. And like Joia, like when we opened the book, I was trying to match like a quote from from a spiritual book. That's what I picked. It's from God Alone by Sri Gyanamata. It's the life and letters of a saint.
It's a beautiful book. Yeah.
It's very beautiful. She writes so beautifully about her life. She doesn't care about her body. It's all about God. It's all about Divine Mother. It just gives so much of inspiration to people.
Beautiful.
So, and we opened the book, and that's what came up, and that's what I put up.
That was divinely meant to be. And one of the things is that I think a lot of us will do that is when you ask the question, you listen and you pay attention.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
when those things come across to you that way. That's truly
Yeah.
beautiful. So Malcolm, on your chapter, how did writing your chapter affect you on a personal level?
It didn't. It didn't. Not at all. In fact, I wrote it very I had a speech. I had a ghostwriter write it for me. Monique, actually. I don't mean to, tell everybody, but it was Monique that wrote this. And it happened to her. And I'm just, I just lived through I mean, like it was the inspiration, just like you're all saying. I opened this book that Monique wrote, and all of a sudden, this story was so much like mine. I just took it. And so, she was a ghostwriter, and ghostwriters, you can't see ghostwriters. So it was so easy for me to just step up and say, ta-da, it's my
Look what I
story.
did.
No, it was, I've gone through, so there was, the story basically starts with, I give a hint to my illness, the illness that I had as a child. And I went through a lot basically. I had a child, or one day I was this bright and happy young 9-year-old boy, light, full of light, and then the very next day I was in a coma. And then when I came out of that coma, I couldn't walk or talk. And so I had all the struggles. And um, this was my physical. So this story was my physical um, um,
Your physical journey, so to
thank
speak.
you.
Right,
Thank you.
right.
See, and that, yeah, that's another thing. The words don't come to my mind sometimes. It was the beginning of my physical journey, and it was very important to me to share that, a personal part of me, with other people, with the world now, because so many other people have something that they're dealing with, whether it's what I dealt with, or whether it's losing your mother, or um, not finding the right job, or anything. And so I really, really wanted to share that part of me, that intimate part of me.
That was beautiful. Very beautiful. It's by being open and vulnerable and authentic and being willing to actually put voice to your story of your life that it truly, truly impacts in the biggest ways. That we really can just shine in our own special ways. And that's what you do. Thank you. Thank you. Monique, you wrote this beautiful chapter, and you have so much expression that is quite authentic and amazing. So, on a personal level, sharing that deeply personal story, how did that affect you?
I didn't want to write it. I kept getting, to the scary part, and all of this resistance came up, and I didn't want to live it again. I had worked very hard to move past it and grow past it. And I always say that grief takes as long as it takes. For most of us, we wish it would be faster.
Yeah.
But it takes as long as it takes. And for me, it took a very, very long time. And I'm still working on it. So I just called on my mom and gave her some voice. I called on my spirit and the part of me that knows the best things, right? That divine source of all there is that shows up. And I made a conscious decision to go slow and take my time and take lots of breaks. And it was it turned out to be a beautiful a beautiful moment with my mom again, to bring her back into the story and to see her from the little girl's perspective again, which I hadn't done for years,
Right.
to really see how one of the things that Betty McDonald stood for, who is my mom, was giving voice to the soul. And that was what she was about, and how I am a walking legacy. And to honor, I think that's what stories are for, to honor the people on whose shoulders we stand, to honor ourselves and our humanity, our human frailty, and to honor the divine that is within each of us. And I think, that's why we tell our stories. And one of the things that was so amazing about being part of this process, which I absolutely did not expect. I wrote that in my blog this morning. I realized that I wrote in my journal in March of this year, just for kicks, wouldn't it be fun to write a bestseller, right? And I just can't even, right? And here we are. But I mean, we'll see if it's a bestseller. But wow,
it is a #1 bestseller.
Amazing. Yeah. But what I got to see and what I loved about being a part of this amazing group of human beings is Iman's quote about this book, about you never know people's stories and what their experiences have been. So be kind.
Always be kind. That quote has always just touched me, because we really don't know. And sometimes we're quick to judge, quick to form an opinion. And yet, when we stand up and share our stories, we are making a huge impact in the world. And what's kind of interesting is when there's times I work with authors that they've written a nonfiction book, and I go through the manuscript and I'm going, because there's no storytelling in it. And I send it back. We need to have the stories to capture the hearts, because anybody can give facts and figures, and anybody can say, this is what you do, you got to do it this way. But without the story and make it the relatability, we lose it. I won't read a book that way. I need storytelling, and I think storytelling has been with us since the beginning of time, passed on from generation to generation. There's been times in the last few years with all the technology that we have. You go to a restaurant, you see an entire family sitting around the table together, and they're all on their devices. They're not talking. They're not sharing their stories. And that's like, it's up to us to hold the torch and to care enough and to become that impactful influencer that we're meant to be. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing. So Kat, tell us about how it impacted you to write your story. I know you had to change your chapter title a few times.
I actually changed the entire story partway through. Much of the time that I was writing, I originally had tried to write about some of my experiences as a woman in engineering, and and a lot of the things that come up and continue to come up in various formats, whether it's not getting on good projects or physical harassment, or things come up, and the trouble is, to tell a good story, if you're still kind of in it, you don't get that turnaround. You don't benefit the audience by sharing, what the solution is. And I think one of the solutions is what I focused on in the second iteration, the second story, which was really focusing on the power of understanding how to structure communications, whether it's telling a story or, speaking from stage, writing a book chapter, leading a course, is understanding that there are structures, there are systems. Technical people are really good with systems. And so, to be able to say, oh, well, I can't communicate, I'm too technical, or people don't understand me anyway, I might as well not try. To recognize that we really have something important to say, and we're working on important things and want to get that out. So for me to be able to empower water and environmental professionals and other really sort of analytical thinkers to say, use the systems of how do you pick a good title? How do you come up with the right points to make within your story? How to come up with the right number of points? How many points can a person's brain take? When do you transition from